Hey, what's up guys? John here. Looks like things are really gonna start to become more clear for the general public about what's going on in the economy. A lot of people think that this is just gonna be able to continue, and I honestly wish that the economy would not collapse or not fall apart, or people get financially injured. But to me, it looks like it's almost inevitable at this point. It looks like there's no way out of it, and it looks like it's about to get a hell of a lot worse before it gets any better. Now, over the last year, almost 2 years, I've been very weary about this market, saying, how can a national median income of $30,000 or $40,000 benefit long-term as we step into what could be hyperinflation, and we step into an environment with low interest rates, almost no interest rates, and we have stimulus, PPP loans, unemployment benefits, we have eviction moratorium, student loan, forgiveness for a while. They kept pushing it down the road. We'll pay it in a year or pay it in 6 months. They kept extending it. Foreclosures, everything. They've been pushing forward any type of debt obligations, and even utility companies in most cities have been pushing out utility bills. So they've been pushing forward all of these payments and all of these requirements and all of these commitments down the road. And I would always say, how can that be? And what is that going to look like when all that stuff is due? But my main concern always was the debt levels. We look at, a lot of people say, oh, John, in 1980, 1970, interest rates were 15% or 18%. But in reality, the debt to income ratios were a lot different, and household values and household prices were a lot less. And the expectations, everything was cheaper. Cars were cheaper, living was cheaper, utility bills, food. You could probably get an ice cream bar for 25 cents, 50 cents. Now that same ice cream bar is $3. Things are getting a hell of a lot more expensive. So the same interest rate application that was applied 30 years ago definitely will not work today. And as we continue starting to increase these rates, which we're seeing now, India just increased rates, Australia is increasing rates, UK, now America is talking about more interest rate hikes. They're talking about a 50 basis point hike today. Now, it's funny to me because about 6 months ago I was in Mexico and I said, imagine, I have a theory, but imagine the greatest rug pull of all time. What would it look like? How would you set this up? If you were going to do a massive rug pull, how would you do it? And what would that look like? You'd obviously issue stimulus, you'd keep interest rates very low, you'd push out any type of outside responsibility, you'd incentivize people to invest, you'd penalize people for not investing, you'd push and push and push to get as many people into that bandwagon as possible, and then at the end, you'd do the rug pull. And then I said, at the same exact time, why is Zuckerberg selling stock every single day? And now looking at it at that moment, when I said that video, Elon sold about 10 billion in Tesla stock. Now it's closer to 20 billion. Back then, people are saying, oh, he's selling stock because, because he needs to fulfill a tax bill of $11 billion. And now, he needs to sell another, 8 billion because he needs to buy Twitter. And these reasons are why he needs to do it. But at that same exact time, he's also coming out with a Tesla bot that's going to cost 10 grand, which is going to get rid of boring and tedious tasks. I personally think that what we're about to step into, I think Elon knows, hey, there's going to be no way that this stock is going to be able to continue soaring, and things are going to continue soaring when they really do this rug pull event. That was my thought, because I'm like, all of these billionaires, all of these wealthy elite are selling when the general public is buying, buying, buying. Now, when has there ever been a time in history where the general public as a whole got wealthy? Never. Never, ever, ever. They never do it all at one time, and it's long-term and fulfilling. Look at 2006, 2007. Look at the early 1990s. Look in, the stock crash in the 80s. Look at all of these bubbles where the general public thought they were getting rich, and then at the end, it was the massive rug pull event. But what I think is unique about this specific situation is this, I think, is going to be the last great bubble. This isn't going to be like a traditional bubble like we've seen in the past where, it's bad for a couple years and then at the end, everyone, picks themselves up and they keep moving along. What I think is going to be different about this type of bubble is that when this pops, the only way for people, most people, not all people, but a lot of people are going to be able to continue moving forward is going to be with universal basic income. It's going to be with with stimulus. It's going to be with support. And nothing's free in this world. When you get that support, there's going to be, requirements. There's going to likely be things that you're going to have to, meet, right? And if that is the case, that's not going to be a situation where most people are going to be able to pick themselves up and rise back to an income level, or better yet, a lifestyle level that they were able to support before all this. Another thing is that I think AI and tech and robotics will all really kind of come to a head over the next 5 years. And as that continues progressing, what's ultimately going to happen? There's going to be less jobs available, and there's going to be more corporations and more companies looking to buy in and develop tech to fulfill these transactions, because it's going to be hard in the labor market. Right now, we're already seeing with the job market, you have to pay $30, $40 an hour just for basic help, whereas that same person probably would have been available for that job for $20 per hour 5 years later, or 5 years prior, right? So we look at all of these changes, and back in that video when I was in Mexico saying, I honestly think that this could be a very big rug pull event. Like, how would you set this up? Like, another example to look at this is, let's say, for example, I wanted to have my friend come over and, and paint. If that is the case, if that friend historically has $200 in the bank, and he's always living paycheck to paycheck, odds are he's not going to be available to go paint, or he's not going to be available to go food shopping or do an errand for me, with no pay. But if that same person had $5,000 or $10,000, would that person be available to go do that? A little quick favor. I'm sure, because they're not used to having that type of money. They have more peace of mind, and with that, they're going to be more likely to do favors and do what I want, right? There's a lot of similarities with that example and what I think we've just witnessed. And so we have this where they gave so much money. They've really brought expectations down on people. So, people didn't have to meet the same levels of responsibility as they did before. And because of this, it built out this huge bear trap, is what I personally believe. I think we're going to likely see this 50 basis point hike today. I think there's going to be many, many more basis point hikes in the 25 to 50 point range. And I think this is likely going to continue to progress. And as this happens, what's going to happen? This bear trap is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, because all of the people that were comfortable over the last couple of years with stimulus, unemployment benefits, and PPP loans, and all of these helpful situations, likely are going to have a harder time when it gets more expensive to borrow money and more expensive to service debt. Because a lot of people use that money irresponsibly. They went out and bought a car, that maybe that was a little outside of their price range. They financed it, and they took on, some people are taking on subprime loans for auto loans just because they want a nice car to, keep up with the Joneses. A lot of people are living outside of their means. And so what I think is about to happen is I do believe we're going to see a massive rug pull event. The thing is, it's just so hard with timing. I personally thought that things were going to, pull back about 5-6 months ago, and they have in a small area, like a small degree. We've seen, some tech stocks get pretty hammered. We've seen some cryptos get hammered. But my belief is that this upcoming crash is going to be worse than, like a 2008. It's going to be worse than anything that we've seen, and I think it's going to be very, very challenging for people to understand this, because we've been so comfortable and things have been so great for so long in this country. I mean, in America, people would come from all over the world. They would come from all over the world. They would work so hard. They'd end up buying a house. They'd start this business. They'd, get employees. They'd buy a second house. They'd buy a rental property. They'd send their kids to school. Kids then would graduate. They'd get a great job, have family values. They would go through, America. And America at that time was just a place to be. But over time now, what we're seeing is that it's not going to be the place to be. And people are really going to start looking for outside opportunities. And as this kind of crashes, I think people are going to start potentially leaving America, considering other options. Now people are working from home more and more and more. And now with tech and with outsourcing, I think we're going to see a lot of opportunities leave America. That coupled with, as I mentioned, robotics coming in the picture the next 3 to 5 years. As all this starts to come, people are not going to see America as that place of absolute opportunity, the place to be in the world. I think people are going to start looking at places like India and China and Mexico and all these other places all over the world, saying, I could live there and maybe it's safer, maybe it's better for my business, maybe the taxes are better, maybe the lifestyle is more conducive for my family, maybe their beliefs are a little bit better. That's why I think we're going to see a lot of opportunity leave America. I think we're going to see the markets come down in a very big way. I think Jerome Powell has no choice but to increase interest rates, and I think it's hilarious to me that everything just happens lock in step with India, Australia, UK, and America all doing the hikes basically at the same exact time. And as that's happening, they were also at that same time, a year or 2 years ago, they were also issuing stimulus and all these benefits at the same time. Everything is happening at the same time. If you say this, people will be like, oh, okay, well, it's coincidence. I guess we're going to see. I think that we're going to really start to see something huge here. I think there's going to be big opportunities, though, for real estate. I think there's going to be big opportunities for investing. I think there will be big opportunities, but I think that it's going to be hard for a lot of people to see these opportunities through the blood in the street, because generally people are only greedy when their neighbors are greedy, and when things are really bad, people are afraid to pull the trigger. That's the difference between a smart investor and an average investor. A smart investor understands what he or she's investing in, and throughout all of the drama, throughout all the chaos, they put their money where their mouth is, and they make a smart decision based on core fundamentals. What do you think? Do you think this whole thing is, coincidence, or do you think we're going to see a massive crash? And do you think Jerome Powell is going to hike rates by 50 basis points today? Drop your comments below, hit the like button, subscribe here, also sub on the second channel, and LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, everything's on the top. I'll catch you guys later.